my concern is that there is now a use of nonprofit corporations, 501c4s they're called, in politics. The use of this kind of nonprofit for political spending has exploded. And I am concerned because the donations to these groups are secret. And because of Citizens United, the amount that people can give is unlimited. And it, I think, is becoming a force of secret spending by a very wealthy minority that poses serious questions about the fundamental idea of our democracy, which is one man, one vote. And there's always been a concern in American history that economic inequality might lead to political inequality. And there's been an effort to balance that out over the years. And I think this latest development creates a real threat to that balance. And we've seen in the headlines just in the last couple days, there was a conference that Charles and David Koch held, where donors at their conference pledged to come up with, I guess it's $889 million to spend in the 2016 election, which is a sum that is larger than both parties spent in the 2012 election. It's unclear how this money will be spent, but conceivably an awful lot of it could be spent secretly and without us ever knowing who the donors were, other than the Kochs themselves. And I think that, raises questions about accountability and fairness and corruption.
Let me take a look at this from a little bit different perspective. I've been in this business for about 34 years. It doesn't seem like it, but I came into it by accident in 1981. And I believe that if you look over these 34, 35 years, this represents a distinctive period in American history. And marked by several things. Obviously, globalization of our economy, and very importantly, the takeoff of the stock market beginning in 1982. The world stock markets were valued at about $2 trillion in 1981. Today, they're valued at about $60 trillion, with the US stock market representing about $21 or $22 trillion. When I started in this business, I don't think there was a foundation that had $1 billion in assets. Maybe the Ford Foundation did. Now there are probably 25 or 30 of them. Harvard was the only college that had an endowment of $1 billion. So we've seen an astronomical takeoff in world wealth. Obviously, we've had a revolution in technology as well, which is, I think, associated with that. But of course, accompanying that has been a rise in inequality. I think it's largely due to the stock market, not totally, but very, very closely related to the takeoff in the stock market. So this phase that we've been through is very distinctive. The inflation-adjusted value of the stock market in 1981 or 1982 was less than it was in 1929. We had a 50-year period where the stock market did not grow in inflation-adjusted terms. Since 1981 or 1982, it's taken off by about 20 times. That's had an enormous impact on, obviously, wealth, but philanthropy, inequality, and the flow of money into politics. Now, I think we can overstate the impact of foundations. Foundations spend about $50 billion a year now. When I started, it was a lot less than that, and there were very few large foundations. Probably 10% of that goes into public policy, if that. Most foundations are not heavily programmatic. A lot of it is local giving, scattered giving, family giving. So the whole foundation world, while it's had an influence on politics, it's not that large. The question I have is this period coming to an end? And I think it is, for three reasons. One, our stock markets and our capitalist system tends to operate in cycles, and I think this one may be coming to an end. Secondly, the political agenda is extremely crowded. That's partly due to foundations and philanthropies and all this money that's flowing into politics. Thirdly, we lack the consensus in the United States to solve the big problems that we're facing. Partly that's due to philanthropy, I think, but a lot of other factors. Can philanthropy answer these questions? I don't think so, because philanthropists are focused on narrow agendas, and that tends to fragment the political system. So I think basically that America's problems will accumulate in the coming decades. We lack the consensus to address them, and the United States will have difficulty sustaining its level of wealth.
Well, on that optimistic note,
what's the point of being a conservative if you have to be optimistic?
You know, I am focused a little bit differently, Jim, on the role of philanthropy in politics, because the thing I'm really thinking about these days is government, it seems to me, has been under a 40-year assault. The idea that we can have an effective, fair, well-functioning government has been under a 40-year assault that has been generally in the United States unanswered or not answered well, in my opinion. I don't know any, I'll say is, actually I've got a friend, a very close friend, Steve Lerner, in the audience who's the real expert on branding, but I'll say I don't know as a business person any brand that could sustain a 40-year assault on its reputation that went unanswered and survive. But that's essentially what I think has happened. Well, why is that important? There is only one institution that every single one of us in America belongs to. We don't belong to the same church or the same club or the same organization. The only organization, the only institution we share is our government, the fact that we're all citizens. And this 40-year assault on the one thing that the one vehicle we can use to work together is a tragedy in my mind. And so that is, because it prevents us, it atomizes us, it separates us, it prevents us from trying to reach consensus, because the idea is it's impossible, because the one institution we could do that through, the assumption is it's non-functioning, it's inefficient, it's too expensive, it's corrupt, whatever. Now, the pouring of money into the election of officials, I think, is complicated, because on the one hand, free speech is also very important, and our ability as individuals to direct our money and to articulate a point of view and to advocate for an idea or a candidate that we want to advocate for is really critical, I think, to a fundamental civil liberty underpinning, which is free speech. On the other hand, the pouring of money in and the vitriol with which it comes in has so diminished this central connection between us that it really is hurting, I think, our society. We need some rules to find some balance here, in my view, because I think we need to reinvigorate the idea that we're going to find a way to work together to really focus on issues of common concern, coming at it from different points of view, and work our way through some of these problems. I'm much more optimistic about the opportunity in front of America and the world than some others might be. But I think we need to solve this problem of how we engage in common action if we are going to succeed.
Right.